LSU is one of the few schools that produces both elite wide receivers and elite DBs. And the amazing thing is, most of them are homegrown in Louisiana, a state with only 4 million people. What's up, y'all? I'm Deeg, and today we're diving into the NFL production for LSU DBs and wide receivers, looking at how their players have performed at the next level from a production point of view, and how it compares to all other schools since 2000. Starting off with wide receivers, where 4 native Louisianians are at the front and center of the production: Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Odell Beckham Jr., and Jarvis Landry. Since 2000, LSU wide receivers have combined for 68,000 receiving yards and 375 receiving touchdowns. Both put him at second most in this time period, just behind Ohio State. But hold on a minute, because there is a slight caveat to these numbers. If you simply change the cutoff date from 2000 to present to 2001 to present instead, LSU leads the pack with 67,000 receiving yards and 372 receiving touchdowns. Ohio State had a pretty insane 2000 NFL season, but since then, LSU has been just as good and even a bit better. Since 2000, LSU has had a whopping 14 receivers with at least 1,000 yards in the NFL. Leading the way are OBJ, Landry, and Bo with over 7,000 yards each, and rising fast behind them are Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase with 5,900 and 3,700 respectively. But the numbers aren't amazing just since 2000. Since 2010, in a more recent time period, LSU also leads the NFL in receiving yards and touchdowns, except this time it's by a large margin. LSU's 48,000 receiving yards in this time period are nearly 6,000 more than second place Clemson, and its 292 receiving touchdowns are 28 more than Clemson's as well. Behind them, you have the usual suspects of Alabama and Ohio State. Not surprisingly, the leading receivers in this time period are very similar, with OBJ, Jarvis Landry, Justin Jefferson, Brandon LaFell, and Dwayne Bowe closing out the top 5. And as you may have guessed, in the last 10 years, it's also LSU who leads in both, except that the margins have gotten tight again. LSU being in first for yards with 38,600 to Alabama's 37,600, and first in touchdowns with 231 to Clemson's 230. If you look at smaller time periods more recently, Alabama and Ohio State have taken a slight advantage over LSU, but there's still one more thing for LSU fans to hang their hat on for wide receiver production. In the 2021 NFL season, LSU receivers combined for what may be the most impressive season to date yet. Their 5,460 combined receiving yards were the 5th most all-time, coupled with 38 receiving touchdowns, which were the most all-time for any school. As a neutral watching this wide receiver U race, I gotta say, I'm excited for where things are headed with LSU, adding in Neighbors and Brian Thomas Jr., Ohio State, adding in Marvin Harrison Jr., USC, adding in Brendan Rice and Taj Washington. We, as fans, are lucky to get to witness an era with such elite talent all around. But enough about the offense. Let's take a look at how LSU DBs have stacked up this century in the NFL. Since 2000, there has been 47 defensive backs from LSU who have recorded at least a tackle in the NFL. In aggregate, they combined for 263 interceptions, 1,100 passes defended, 71 forced fumbles, 8,600 tackles, and 300 tackles for loss. Per my numbers, this would put them at second most production this century, behind OSU, who leads all of those aggregate stat categories I just mentioned. But again, let's take a look how things look at different time periods. From 2000 to 2010, LSU would actually be 6th, behind Ohio State, Miami, FSU, USC, and South Carolina. But things really picked up after 2010. Since 2010, LSU is second in terms of DB production for any cut of time you want to look at, whether it be 2010 to present, last 10 years, last 5 years, 3 years, 2 years, even just last year. The only better DB producer than LSU since then is Nick Saban. It took the greatest coach of all time in that time period to be able to outproduce LSU DBs. But I think the thing that really stand out for both LSU and Ohio State is the consistency of DB production from 2000 to now. Other teams have had their peaks, like FSU and Miami in the 2000s, Alabama in the 2010s, but LSU and Ohio State have been consistently producing DB talent for decades now. So when it comes to the DBU conversation, I personally have no problem if either of those two schools claim it, as they have a track record and proven production to back it up. All I know is this race is far from over, and LSU will continue to put elite talent in the NFL in both positions. Doesn't matter if it's Les Miles, Ed Orgeron, Brian Kelly, etc. There's just something about the Bayou and that Tiger logo. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to drop a like and subscribe to help out the channel. And as always, I'll catch you in the next one.